by hitting record. I'm going to start by going to the PowerPoint or the flip chart, and I'm going to explain the anatomy of a shift using just a simple pencil drawing here. The left side of this is months of inventory, and the right side is the number of homes that are being sold. Green is the number of homes being sold, and blue is inventory. And if we go all the way back to 1990, and why would we go back that far? Well, the answer to that is because markets repeat. And what happened before will probably happen again. Now, am I saying that we're going to see the same type of shift that we saw back in the 90s or between 2006 and 2010? No, I'm not saying that. And I am saying that part of that path, part of that pattern, what we saw will happen again. Matter of fact, it is happening again. So if we started with inventory, we had more than 8 months worth of inventory in 1990. Buyer's market, 100%, right?
Yes.
That means if you looked at a particular neighborhood, there were 30 homes for sale, and 8 times 3 is 24, 9 times 3 is 27. There were roughly 9.5 properties selling every 30 days. No, there were approximately, I should have done this ahead of time. There were approximately 3 properties selling every 30 days. There we go. There was 30 homes for sale, and approximately 3 were selling every 30 days, between 3 and 4. Got it? Very different than the market we're in right now, correct?
Yes.
Now, inventory started to drop. In 92, we were at 4 months. Seller's market. It dropped to its lowest point between 2004 and 2006. Now, the number of homes that were being sold, they gradually went up as inventory went down. Normal.
Right, that's what happens. Right?
Normal, right?
Yeah.
And then the market shifted, and what you're going to hear from Gary today in Shift is it shifted slow, and then all of a sudden it shifted quick. Matter of fact, I can tell you in the market where I was working, it was April of 2006. We saw a change in the market. It was immediate. It was impactful, right? And inventory got as high as 10.2 months buyer's market in 2008. And as inventory was going up, the number of homes that were being sold came down. That is the anatomy of a shift explained in its most simplest form using a graph. Everybody good so far? Cool. Now, I'm going to leave that right there, and I'm going to kind of sit off to the side because if you're on Zoom, I want you to be able to see it. And I'm just going to read to you what Gary has to say on pages, what did I say, Clarissa?
9 to 12.
Thank you. All right, we're good. The anatomy of a shift, middle of the page. Shifts are easy to understand. They occur whenever supply and demand move out of balance. Whenever supply and demand move out of balance. So the first question that I have for you is, what does a balanced market look like? What does the National Association of Realtors? Go ahead.
6 months.
5 to 7 months of inventory.
There you go. Thank you, Shirley. My new favorite. 5 to 7 months of inventory as a balanced market. 5 to 7 months worth of inventory would be anything between here and here. You notice the time period that we're in a balanced market is very small. That's the first thing I want you to notice. It would also be over here and very small. We were in a seller's market for a period of 15 years. Balanced markets don't last 15 years. They last months. You guys hear that? Whether you're moving into a seller's market, sales are going up, inventory is going down, or you're moving into a buyer's market, inventory is going up, sales are coming down. That period between 5 and 7 months lasts 3, 4, 5 months at the most typically. All right. Gary goes on to say, when seller supply exceeds buyer demand, it's a buyer's market. When buyer demand exceeds seller supply, it's a seller's market. A shift occurs when the market moves from one to the other. Now, towards the bottom of the page, Gary says balanced markets occur during the transition between markets and rarely last for long. There you go. Are you Shante? That's what I just said, isn't it? That's right. Good morning. Okay, go to page 10. Why does the shift to a buyer's market create pain? Well, the answer is 2 reasons. First, it leads to fewer sales and less available sales income in your market. Second, it tends to be abrupt and precipitous. In other words, it doesn't happen slowly. The misleading aspect of an economic shift is that it seems relatively natural and gradual when looked at nationally. When experienced locally, it is usually dramatic and fast. I would add painful to that. Moving over to page 11, top of the page, the national perspective rarely, if ever, matches the local experience. The hard truth is local market shifts are seldom slow and local landings are almost never soft. Now, I'm going to add to that. The level at which you're going to experience a shift in your local market depends on how strong the market was prior to the shift. The markets that are doing the best in a seller's market are the ones that are going to be affected the most when the market shifts, as in South Florida. Pay attention. Okay. Now, we saw the same thing back in 2006, 7, and 8. In Florida, the shift hit us hard. In the Midwest, in states like Texas, it didn't really affect their market until maybe a year or 2 later, and it didn't affect it as much because in 2004, 5, 3, 4, and 5, while prices were going up by an average of 15% a year in Florida, their market was pretty steady. Prices were not going up. And if you study history, if you go back and you ask what was happening in Texas in the late 90s through the early 2000s, well, you'd find the dot-com crash. And when the dot-com crash happened, a lot of people who lived in those areas, and Texas was one of them, were affected by the economy, where it didn't affect South Florida. You guys get that? All right. It's a lot like a pendulum or a golf swing, beginning relatively slowly, but accelerating very quickly through the middle. Some local shifts can actually take your breath away. Like, what happened? Now what? And I've lived that, and I've seen real estate agents jump out of the business because of it. And then I've seen other real estate agents succeed because of it. Now, because you're part of this group, I'm going to pause for just a moment. There's 13 of you on Zoom and roughly 10 in the room. The 23 that are listening to this, you're in that group that's not panicking because you're prepared for this. You're prepared for this because you're listening to this conversation. In other words, whether you survive a shift in order to thrive, in order to survive a shift, in order to thrive, Jante, you have to first of all recognize something's different here. And then you have to change your strategy. You see, when the market shifts, we have to shift. I mean, if you're taking notes, please write that down. When the market shifts, I have to shift. And the first shift you're going to make is in your mind. It's a mental shift. And the second shift you're going to make is in the activities that you're doing. Now, you heard me in yesterday's team meeting share that we are in a market where you can no longer wait for somebody to want to sell their home. You have to be the reason they want to sell their home. That's making a shift in your actions. It's being more proactive and less reactive. It's reaching out to people and having real estate conversations, Shante, that cause them to go, maybe I should think about selling my house. Now you're creating motivation. You're not waiting for somebody to be motivated. Don't forget your question. I'm on a roll, and if I stop, I might forget. Okay, bottom of the page, several factors can cause an economic shift. Currency exchange, rates, political climate, pay attention, are the primary global factors. On a national level, it's interest rates and inflation. What's happening to interest rates right now? They're going up. Talk to me about inflation.
When you have inflation, it creates an atmosphere where buyers have less money.
Okay, so buyers have less money. The dollar is worth less. Okay, and where is inflation right now in the United States? Is it high? Is it low? Where are we compared to the last 40 years?
It's high.
All-time high. All-time high. Okay, population, jobs, and household income take center stage at the city level. And at the most local level, it's neighborhood dynamics and housing prices. You look at the average price in Coral Springs, Parkland today, and it's at least $150,000 higher than it was 4 years ago. At least $150,000 higher. Does that affect the local market? Of course it does. We're eventually going to get to a point where you have groups of people, high income, middle class, and first-time home buyers. And what we're doing is we're pricing the first-time home buyers out of the market, which means they're either not going to buy a home or they're going to move someplace else where they can. Now you take that group out of the mix. Are you selling fewer homes? Say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All of this simply boils down to buyer demand, which is driven by affordability and perception. How many buyers can afford to buy and how many think it's a good time to buy? Who affects how they think? Say, I do. I do. You have to be the local economist of choice who talks them through this. Is it a good time to buy? Well, let me ask you, how long do you plan on living in your home? 10 years. Then it's a great time to buy. Because if the value of your home goes down over the next 5 years, and you're not selling for 10 years, and your home is worth more 10 years from now than it is today, are you good? Yeah, you are. Hey, by the way, you have to have a home to live in, right? I mean, it's shelter. The home you live in is not an investment mindset. It's shelter. Now, let's say, for example, that you're not buying a home, that you're renting. That same home that you were going to buy, but you didn't because it might not be a good time to buy. That same home that you didn't buy would cost you $3,000 a month to rent, or $36,000 a year, or $360,000 over the next 10 years. So if you're in your home for 10 years and you break even 10 years from now, in other words, you sell it for the same amount of money that you bought it for. Did you lose money? You made $360,000 because it would have cost you $360,000 to live in that home. Now you have to be the person that helps them see it that way, because I promise they don't. Got it? All right, bottom of the page. So are shifts bad? Well, it depends. For the real estate industry in a particular market, it certainly can be. The available income for everyone, that's you guys, in that market has dropped. So there's less income and there's more of you. Right? Say right.
Yes.
For any single individual in their local market, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It's a choice. There is still enough available income for them to achieve their goals. The challenge for individual agents, fear, and how they will respond to it. Like, oh no, what am I going to do? Or, oh boy, opportunity. Why would it be opportunity? The answer is because when the market shifts and there's less available and there's more of you, it becomes a market of skill. It becomes a skill-based market. And the agents who have the most skill, the ones who understand pricing conversations, who understand, who are the local economists of choice, who are strategic pricing experts, those are the agents that are going to succeed at the highest level when the market shifts. And that's you. So your response to a shift should be, oh boy, not oh no, and opportunity. I can't wait for the market to shift. I've been saying that for 7 years. You're at a NASCAR race and it's yellow light. Every single car on the track is driving 55 miles an hour. They're following the pace car. They're all in line. They're all behaving. They're all succeeding at the same level, which is they're not. And all of a sudden it's green light, and it's pandemonium. That's a shift. The yellow light is the market's good and everybody succeeds in spite of what they're not doing well because the market is bringing business to them. Green light, only the most talented drivers get to the front. Green light, only the most talented skill-based real estate agents get to the top. A shift exposes the frauds. The cream rises to the top. And the most talented agents will succeed at the highest level when the market does that. When inventory goes up, sales come down. All right, I'm going to close. When shifts occur, fears run rampant. Although not everyone responds in the same way, some individuals, though they do feel the fear, so you're going to feel it, also know they are an equal opportunity, unequal reward business. It's really the 80-20 rule at work. 20% of the people will do 80% of the business in any entrepreneurial endeavor. So what's the solution? Determined to be the 20%. Those who understand this know that they must be better than average to earn the better than average rewards. If individuals understand a shift or have actually experienced one, they know they have to push past the fear and face two tests. First, to survive and then to thrive. They have to hang tough until the law of equilibrium reasserts itself, then it's opportunity time. Okay. I'm laughing because Shirley wrote, Shirley is John's new favorite from 9:10 to a 9:11 today. I like that. And yeah, it's 9:27. You're still my favorite, Shirley. All right, guys, raise your hand. I think that's the first time we've talked about this. Hey, by the way, today is 2 years, exactly 2 years since the first Survive to Thrive call. 2 years, March 17th. And
Anniversary.
you know, it's interesting because I was talking to some of the agents in the room and we were talking about why we created Survive to Thrive, and they didn't know. And they didn't know that this used to be 100% Zoom, that there was nobody in this room. There was nobody in this office for 6 months because we were shut down because of COVID. And when COVID, I like that. That's what it should be called. When COVID happened and the world shut down, my thought process was, I've got to find a way to stay in touch with my people. And I had never been on a Zoom call prior to that. I didn't even know what this Zoom thing was. And somebody said, you should look at Zoom. I said, okay, we'll do that. And we created Zoom and we had these daily conversations. I was doing them from my living room with Monica talking in the background. And you guys got to hear Monica every day working, and you got to see me go, shh, shh. And then the dogs would bark. Oh, it was fun. Yeah, I'm so glad.
I thought that was script, John.
Oh my gosh, no. All right, raise your hands. Give me some. Yeah, thank you for that. Hold on a second. Shirley, am I on mute? No?
I thought you wanted to stop the recording.
There we go. Okay, you're right. I do.